Hey class, this is Mr. Walker, and here's a brief tutorial about Lesson 8 for Week 3 Distance Learning APUSH. So Lesson 8's right here, and we can see that it's a 2-day lesson, Wednesday the 15th and Thursday the 16th. If we scroll to our agenda here on the right, we see there's attendance due for Wednesday, and then for Thursday, attendance is due, and then there's the Lesson 8 assignment template. So that's when you submit this. If you click on it, you'll see our video directions, which I'm giving you right now, and then the actual lesson directions. Please click on that and read it after you watch the video. And for this lesson, kind of like last week, the first lesson of the unit for this unit 3 was lesson 7. You get a lot of content and you kind of dig deep into it. And now in lesson 8 and also eventually in lesson 9, you're going to use that content to do a variety of historical thinking skills and stuff that you'll be asked to do on the AP exam, and also start reviewing some content that you might be asked about in the AP exam as well. So we're really applying content in lesson 8 and lesson 9 when you were trying to gather it in lesson 7. If you click on our template here, boom, it'll bring you to this. There are 3 parts to our lesson 8 assignment template, and it's all about culture and society in 1945. Part 1 is a causation chart and synthesis activity with television. TV was this huge new invention that really became popular in the 1950s. So you're going to identify 5 effects of television here in this box. And then below it, you're going to think of some kind of invention from earlier in the year that had a huge similar effect on society. You're going to identify that invention so you get to figure one out. And then you're going to put down 3 specific effects of that invention here. And then you're also going to think into the future and really think about any kind of invention from like the 1960s to today. So it could even be inventions that you're really familiar with. You're going to identify that invention, post it here, and identify 3 ways this invention has dramatically impacted our American identity. Politics, culture, our economics, our social practices, all that. You can consider those as you try to think of 3 examples of how it has that new technology has affected us. If you don't really know a lot about TV, or if you can't remember what the textbook said about TV's impact, I encourage you to check out this article right here. It's got a good summary for you from ushistory.org. Okay, going down, part 2 is a modified DBQ activity. You're going to be seeing a lot of these kind of modified DBQ activities where I give you a prompt and a bunch of documents, and you have to identify the main point of those documents and then put them into corroborated groups. Remember, corroborate means to group something that you could use as like your line of reasoning in a thesis. I'm going to have you write a thesis. So this is the first of what will be many modified documents in the next couple of weeks where you're really just practicing what you're going to be doing on the AP exam. This one's about cultural conformity versus rebellion in the 1950s. You're going to click on this link here, and it's going to give you 14 documents. Holy moly. I don't want you to use all 14 documents. You're going to pick at least 6 of the documents from that 14 document list, and you're going to use them to answer this prompt here in yellow. You're going to identify the docs. You're going to corroborate them into groups, and you'll identify what documents support that group. So you'll look at this link, and maybe you'll see that documents 2 and document 4 and document 5 are all kind of suggesting or showing the same information. They're all supporting the same idea. Well, you'd identify that idea here, and you'd say that these documents support that idea. You do not need to write down how each of these documents support the main point or how they are corroborated together. Just give me the main point, put the documents that fit in. I've seen these documents a lot, and so I'll look at them and I'll know right away, okay, yep, those do make sense. Nope, those are total opposites. They don't make sense. So I'll kind of figure it out from there. So you're grouping the documents like you would for a DBQ pre-write, and then in part 2, you're going to write a thesis where you respond to the prompt. You provide a qualifier. You say to what extent the decade was a period of political, social, cultural conformity. Either it was a lot, it wasn't that much at all. It was, in some places it was, but not in others. And then you'll give me your line of reasoning, your groups. You'll state it was this much conformity as seen by group 1, group 2, group 3. Write a thesis. Really stuff we've been doing all year, so rather kind of basic. Shouldn't be super hard, but it's good practice as we start to do more and more of it. With the documents, one kind of weird thing, I do want you to use at least one of the first 4 documents. So documents 1, 2, 3, and 4 are in red font. when you click on this, you need to use at least one of those as part of your 6 documents that you corroborate and form a thesis around. So just be aware of that. Don't want to get nickel and dimed on a point there. And then the last part, this is kind of like synthesis too, but you're doing compare and contrast of 2 decades. Often the 1950s, so chapter 37, gets compared to the 1920s. And there's a lot of similarities and differences and things that are kind of the same, but they deviate in certain ways that make them more nuanced. So you're going to be comparing and contrasting the 1920s, 1950s. I need 5 comparisons. Remember, a comparison can be a similarity or a difference. For this activity, you can do 5 similarities, or you can do 5 differences, or you can do a mixture, 3 similarities and 2 differences, whatever. But you got to identify what that comparison is for each one, and then give an evidence from each decades. In the 1950s, 1920s, this happened in both decades, as seen by this in the 1920s and this in the 1950s. So I need 5 comparisons between the 2 decades. If you're like, man, Mr. Walker, 1920s was like, I don't know, a month ago and a whole like coronavirus outbreak ago, check out these videos or these PowerPoints on chat on the 1920s. These are helpful resources. You can click on them and get a quick update on the 1920s. You can watch them, review them, and go, oh, yeah, that did happen, and that was like this, or no, that wasn't like this. You can figure out your comparisons from there. This is due, let's see, Thursday by midnight. It is a 20-pointer, I want to say. Good luck with this assignment, and email me if you have any questions. Have a great